Hey everybody, the other day I got a question from one of our readers, and I thought that this would be a good forum to answer it. Just a video blog type thing. I've never done this before, so give it a shot. Well, the question she asked was, how did I know that it was time to leave Hungary? And she asked if God had spoken to us, directly that it was time to leave Hungary. So I think that's a really good question. I think a lot of people are, wanting the answer to that question, not just for my life, but really for their own life. So I thought maybe I could share my story with you about how God led me and my family to make a big life change like that. I should preface it by saying, I've made a few of these life changes. There was the time when I moved from America to Hungary the first time, and then from the city that we lived in, we were very established in, had a great ministry going, and we left that city and moved up to Eger, which is about 2 hours north. And so that was another one of those things where we were seeking God's will. Should we move? Obviously, moving back to the United States with a bunch of kids and handing over our work over there, which we had worked on for 7 years, that was a much bigger decision than any of the other ones. So when we moved to Eger originally, the idea had been that we wanted to stay there for a limited amount of time and eventually hand that church over to Hungarian leadership. So going into it, that was the goal. We never planned to stay there for the rest of our lives, and we even were very upfront about this with the church there. We made sure that they understood that we were coming for a short amount of time and that eventually we would leave. So, as we got around the 5-6 year period in Eger, we moved there in 2005, and as we were getting to 2010, 2011, began to have a really strong sense of how long does God want us to stay here. We were seeing that some of our dreams and wishes were coming true in Hungary, like that there are things that we had planned for and worked for, and they were becoming a reality. And so we had a sense that we need to start thinking about where God would lead us next. And it came along with a feeling, which I also had when we moved away from Debrecen, which was, if I don't hand this over, if I don't move, then I will be doing something wrong. I would almost describe it, at risk of being misunderstood, I would almost describe it as a sense of dread, like a sense of, I need to get out of here, not because I don't like being here, but because if I stay here, I will be outside of the will of God for my life, and I'll be hindering what He wants to do through somebody else, and in my life as well, and in my family's life. So in 2010, I ended up getting a phone call, which I wasn't looking for, out of the blue, asking me to come to Eger and take over, or I'm sorry, they'd come to Longmont and take over this church. And at first I was a bit hesitant about it. I wasn't sure if our work in Hungary was ready for me to move on, but God organized the circumstances in such a way that we were able to stay in Eger and finish things very well. We were able to hand over the church well. We were able to, sell things in a proper manner, and then moved to the United States, and everything went very smoothly on that end. How did I know it was time to move on? What advice can I give to somebody who's thinking about making a major life decision like that? I would say, first of all, we checked our motives. That's really important. Why do we want to move? Are we moving because something is not right, that we're trying to run away from something? I saw that happen where people would leave the mission field precisely because basically things weren't going very well and they wanted to do something different. Maybe that was God's leading too. For us, we really didn't want to run away from something. And so we actually ended up leaving Eger at the height of our ministry. It was one of the strongest points that our ministry had ever been. We had just recently, before that, started a daughter church of that first church we started. Things were going really well, and we were very happy there. We were very established. We had everything going for us, and it seemed like kind of a weird time. Our kids were doing well in school. Everything was good. So why move? Well, we really moved because we had a sense that this is what God wanted us to do, and then that was confirmed because I got this phone call asking us to move, and and this church really seemed to want us to come. So, it was definitely a motivator. We also had invitations at the time to go to places like Ukraine or Serbia, which were places which we love, which we had always talked about maybe moving to. We were fluent in Hungarian, and we thought, how could it be that God would call us to go to the United States when we have this unique gift of being able to speak Hungarian? Why wouldn't we use that? Wouldn't that make more sense for us to use that gift somewhere else in Hungary or somewhere else in Europe where they speak Hungarian? And so these were things that we wrestled with, and really just kind of came to the conclusion at the end that this is what God wanted us to do. One thing I often do when I'm seeking God's will is I like to give him the opportunity to shut it all down and just put it in his hands and say, God, if this is what you want me to do, I just want you to close the door. I want you to make it clear to me that I should not do this. And if you do that, then I would be happy to stop and do something else or go a different direction. So really just a attitude of humble submission to God's will. I think that's important. So we had that, and really we came to the conclusion praying together that this is what we needed to do. This is what God wanted us to do. And, you never know going into it. Kind of like if you remember in Indiana Jones, right? He has to step on that invisible bridge that goes across that big, whatever, chasm or whatever. And he doesn't see the bridge until he takes the step. And that's how it's been with each of the big, life moves that we've made, is that we make the step, and I think God asks us to make that step first. So when we make that step first, then we start to see, wow, this really was God. And wow, I'm really glad that I made the right move and the right step. There are so many things with moving here after we moved here, on both ends, both in Hungary and here in the U.S., where we were able to see, wow, that really was God. God was in this. This is what he wanted us to do. We see the fruit of that now. So I hope that answers your question. If you have any further questions, please leave me a comment. I'd be happy to answer that. But that's how it happened with us. And we'd be praying for all of you out there who are making major life decisions, that you would hear from the Lord and that you would have confidence in walking in the Spirit.